Hello and welcome to Senior Living Live. I'm Janae Sherman and thank you for joining me for today's webinar. Today we're going to be discussing seasonal affective disorder with Diane Lang, and she's going to help us get into the spirit and beat those winter blues. So Diane, it is great to see you today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, this topic is very timely because not only can the weather get us down, but the season is very stressful if we let it get that way. So I can't wait to jump into your presentation today. I'm going to get out of your way so you can present and answer all of the questions that our viewers have for you. But before I give you the floor, I just want to remind our viewers today that if and when you have a question, please type it in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, and I'll be happy to read those when we're done with the presentation today. So with that, I'm going to leave. Diane, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. A little bit about me before we start. So my name is Diane Lang. I've been speaking for Arbor for a few years now, and I have been a counselor for over 20 years. Also an adjunct professor here in New Jersey at Montclair State University. Have been in the undergrad psychology department for over 15 years. So been in the field for a really long time. And the winter blues and seasonal affective disorder is something that we deal with every year. And I'm really excited to share some tips and tools and go over all the information. So I'm just going to take a minute to share my screen and make sure everybody can see, and then we'll get started. Let me just make it a full screen. Okay. So everybody should see on here that it says winter blues up in the left-hand corner. And if you're having any problems seeing or hearing, please just let us know so we can help. All right. So a little bit to start. There is the winter blues and seasonal affective disorder. So there's two different, and I'm going to start off with the winter blues. Now, the winter blues is not a clinical diagnosis. It's not like seasonal affective disorder, but it is real and it exists for so many people. I know I am one of them. I do not like winter. And there are people, just to put this out there, that get seasonal affective disorder or the blues in the summer. So if you live in a really hot place like Florida, where it's really humid in the summer and you feel like you can't go out and you're stuck inside, that can happen as well. But for most people, it's usually the winter that causes it. So even though it's not a clinical diagnosis, people really do get the blues from the winter months. Now, unlike seasonal affective disorder, it doesn't interfere with your daily functioning. So you still get up, you still eat your breakfast, you go do your errands, you go to work, you spend time with other people. But remembering this, even with depression, there's two different types, right? There's clinical depression, but there's also what we call mild depression, which is known as dysthymia, where people function. They go to work, they go to school, they see friends, they keep the house clean, they do everything they need to do, but they feel blah. And they just kind of feel like no enthusiasm for life. So even though it doesn't interfere with your daily functioning, it doesn't mean that you're not going to feel sad or feel fatigued and low energy. You might find yourself, and this happens a lot for people, where they feel that hibernation or nesting, they call it, where they want to stay in bed longer because it's warm, it's comfy, it's cozy. A lot of times, if you get up early, it's dark outside. When you leave the house, it's dark when you come home. So it feels just better to stay in the warmth of it. You don't want to go outdoors because for a lot of people, especially if you're not in Florida, which gets a lot of sun, for a lot of us, even if it doesn't get that cold near you, it gets dark, gets dreary, gets more cloudy. For some people, it could be snow or rain. And that comes with really a lack of motivation for outdoor activities. People just don't have that enthusiasm to go out and be cold and bundled up and layered up and feel uncomfortable. And for some people, they want to stay in bed longer, but it can also affect their sleep. Sleep is one of the biggest things to get affected when we're stressed, when we're anxious, when we have depressed. And the other reason is we have less melatonin, which we need for sleep in the winter months. That's why you hear a lot of people who will take the over-the-counter melatonin, which is helping if you are lacking melatonin. And for some people in the winter, they really do have that less melatonin. So those melatonin supplements do make difference. We also have the feelings of sadness or blah or no motivation to go outside because the days are shorter. It's dark, it's cloudy, and it's cold. But what happens is that limits our sun exposure, which can make us feel more depressed and make us feel like trapped inside, but it also affects your sleep cycle. So it's really important that we still get that sun exposure, which we'll go more into. Now, for most people, if they're going to get winter blues or seasonal affective disorder, they'll notice that it happens every year. And it usually starts around the same time and ends around the same time. So it's good because you can figure out, do I have a pattern of this? So I had a client that by the end of October, beginning of November, depending what the weather looked like, because here in the New York, New Jersey area, you never know what you're getting. But somewhere around that time and with the change in the time, right, we go back and put the clocks back, she would start hibernating. She would not really come out. She would stay in her house. She would stay in bed a lot. She didn't want to do any activities outside. And then when it started getting nicer again and longer days, which is usually somewhere at the end of March, beginning of April, again, depending on the weather, she would start coming out again. So when people actually joke about hibernating, a lot of people do feel that. They feel this hibernation, this need to stay inside. And others will call it nesting, where again, you're just staying inside and just staying close to home. So you'll notice if you have the winter blues or seasonal affective disorder, again, you'll notice it starting somewhere around the end of October, maybe even the middle, and it'll go through to about the middle to end of March. So be aware of that pattern. And if you can think back that this has been happening to you for a while, then you'll notice that you might have this. And I know for me, it's like clockwork. By the end of October, beginning of November, again, depending, sometimes we have a little bit warmer of a fall, not so bad, but when they change the clocks back and it's dark and it's cold, it starts immediately for me. And again, usually by March or April, I'm starting to feel that hope and wanting to go out more, and the days are getting longer and the sun is out more, and I start cheering up. So you'll see that pattern for many of us. And with the winter blues, being that it's not a clinical diagnosis and people are functioning, we really manage it and deal with it with lifestyle changes. So there are things we can do to get through the winter blues. So that's the good news. There is plenty of things we can do. But I want you to notice, what are some of the signs or symptoms, again, besides the pattern of it starting, around October and going through March, what does it actually feel like? So people have the winter blues. These are some of the signs and symptoms. You can have some, you can have them all, but just noticing and being self-aware if this is you. So again, that's sadness and gloom during the fall and winter months. And again, just feeling blah. That's what clients say to me all the time. I just feel blah. It's not clinical, but it really makes sense of how people feel. Or they go, I feel blah, I feel just feel like no enthusiasm or motivation for life. I do what I got to do, but it just feels like Groundhog Day, right? That it's the same thing every day. And this affects our energy levels. People say they just feel very low energy or fatigue. And that doesn't just have to be physical, right? We think of fatigue as physical. You could feel mentally and emotionally drained, exhausted, and fatigued. So it could be both physical or mental or emotional. You can have some trouble sleeping. For a lot of people, this hits because, again, stress, anxiety, depression affects our sleep. A lack of motivation to go out and do things, a lack of motivation to even be outside and enjoy the environment, nature during those winter months. Could be irritable and moody. And for people who live with that, will say they feel like they're walking on eggshells. They're not sure what to expect, because it might be a day that all of a sudden it's a warm day. Like tomorrow here in New Jersey, New York, Connecticut area, the tri-state area, it's going to be in the 50s and sunny. Now, that's not that warm, but when you live over here where it's been down to the 30s and windy, that's amazing. We can't wait to get out, right? So certain days, if it's sunny, it's not as cold, we might have a different mood. But other days we wake up and it's cloudy and kind of cold. So the mood swings can go up and down, and sometimes you don't know what to expect from somebody. And again, just so you know, even if you don't have the winter blues, just having days on end of being either inside all the time and feeling isolated or not having any sunshine can affect anybody. So I've had clients who say, I don't normally get the winter blues, but we've just had a week of snow and rain and clouds, and it's even getting to me. So weather can play a role in your moods, just in general. Even in the summer when it's warm, if there's, days on end of just rain and clouds, it does affect people. So you might see people be irritable, moody, lack of motivation, They end up sometimes spending way too much time on computers or screens, whether it's TV, social media, their computers, Googling, whatever it is. And being that they're stuck inside, it leads to that boredom and restlessness. Think about COVID, right? We were trapped in and isolated and lonely, what that does. And a lot of people do that in the winter months. So, and a lot of people have a fear of driving in the winter months, just if there's a chance, even if it's raining, but, by the time you come home, it could turn into ice. It could be that rain ice mix. It could turn to snow. People don't want to drive in that. They don't want to be out there in it. So again, a lot of times we're just stuck more inside, and that can lead to a lot of boredom and restlessness. So notice your screen time. Notice how it's making you feel. Women tend to be more affected by the winter blues and seasonal affective than men, but it doesn't mean men don't get affected. They can, but we do see it more in women. I have to admit, though, my brother lived upstate in Rochester, New York. And if you're not from this area, there's only like an hour and a half from Canada. And he lived by a lake, and they used to get the lake effect. So they would have snow and clouds longer than the rest of upstate New York. Now, upstate New York gets a lot of snow and it's much colder, but in a lot of the areas, they'll get much more sunshine. And he got such an effect from it. They actually moved to Florida about 5, 6 years ago because he was so depressed in the winter months. So it really can affect men too. But again, a lot of times it does affect women. So just being aware of that. And for a lot of people, it causes them to overeat and gain weight. And that's why you hear a lot of people say they're nesting in the winter and they're cooking all of this real mood food, food that lifts their moods. But a lot of times the food that lifts your moods are sugar or a lot of carbs. So for a lot of people, there is that gain weight factor, which causes that negative cycle because then they're not happy with what they look like or feel like when spring starts hitting. So again, a lot of people will just out of isolation, loneliness, sad. So just remember that even in COVID, we saw a lot of that. So just be mindful of those signs and symptoms. So a little bit about sad, and I think I missed a slide. Yes, sorry. Having some technical issues. It just moved. There we go. So a little bit about SAD. Now, winter blues, again, is not a clinical diagnosis, but seasonal affective disorder, known as SAD, is. That is a clinical mental illness. And a lot of people who have SAD have depression in general. So a lot of times we feel that people who have, clinical depression, major depression, bipolar, generalized anxiety disorder, they might be more prone to have SAD. But it doesn't mean that people don't have it, don't have depression. But we do see it more with people who already deal with depression all year round. So that's one, or a generalized anxiety disorder, because anxiety and depression overlap. For a lot of people, they have anxiety and depression. So it could definitely lead to SAD. So what are the signs and symptoms, which are different than the winter blues symptoms, right? So for people with seasonal affective disorder, they have feelings of sadness. They feel hopelessness, helplessness, which again are typical depressive symptoms for people who have clinical depression of any type, right? They feel anxious during the winter months. And these depressive symptoms, such as helplessness and hopelessness, also include a loss of interest in activities that they usually like. They don't even really have an interest to spend time with people that they usually spend, doing the hobbies that they love to do. Just had a client tell me yesterday that she only loves to read. But in the winter months, she's feeling that isolation. She won't drive in the winter. She feels very uncomfortable driving past. And right, it gets dark around 4 o'clock here. So even if she's out doing things, she wants to make sure she's on the road around 3-ish. So by the time she gets home, it's around 4:15 when it's starting to get dark because her eyesight's not as good. She gets nervous and anxious. So she's been hibernating a lot during the winter months. And it's really starting to get to her. And she said, I'm not even enjoying the indoor activities like streaming some of my favorite shows or reading my favorite books. And that's a sign of depression. So it might not be that you just don't want to go outside and do the usual activities. It could be even indoors where it is warm and cozy, that you just still feel that helplessness, hopelessness. They withdraw from their social circle and not just, again, going out and seeing the people, but they might not even stay in touch. People tend to isolate when they go through a time. So if you have friends or family that during the winter months start withdrawing, not only do they not want to come out and see anybody, but they're not calling as often, they're not returning calls or texts, you might want to check in on them because that is a big sign. And some people do have some thoughts of suicide. It's not the norm, but some people can go down that road again, especially if they have depression all the time. They also feel fatigue again, both physical, emotional, mental. They feel loss of energy. They have trouble concentrating, focus, attention span. So all the cognitive abilities that we talk about, brain fog, we can see a real decline when it's the winter months, and they're just basically unmotivated. The sadness comes in, the isolation, the lonely feelings, because again, if we start locking ourselves in, even if it's November, right? That's about 5 months to the end of March or April that we come out. So when people isolate, and again, during COVID, during the lockdowns, people were feeling that within 2 or 3 months. So imagine a whole winter of just being kind of stuck in. You're going to start feeling that isolation, that trap feeling, which leads to loneliness. And remember, the top factors of depression outside of mental illness is loneliness and isolation. Now, they might start out mild because, again, in October, November, we might have some warmer days, might have some days where people are feeling more excited to go out. But as it gets colder and darker and then the snow and the weather starts changing and the holidays leave, then they can get more depressed. Now, for some people, the holidays can really depress, but for a lot of my clients who have sad or winter blues, they're pretty good in November and December. They have their moments, but once Thanksgiving passes, Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's passes, then they start feeling really depressed because the next major holiday is not till Easter or Passover, where it's a big holiday where people get time off, where they spend time with their family or friends. That's not till April. That's a long period of time where there's just nothing to look forward to, is what I exactly hear from people. So it could start off a little mild, the depression, and then get worse as it goes along. Now, if some people have holidays that are an issue, because there could be triggers in holidays where they have lost loved ones, where family's too far away, where they have lost somebody and they're just grieving them during it, or the holidays are triggers for them, then you could see that the seasonal affective disorder just adds on to the holiday stress. So it really depends on individual. Everybody's different, but it could go either way. You see a change in appetite and sleeping habits. So when people tend to be very anxious, nervous, worried, those kinds of things, having panic attacks, their appetite tends to be less. When they're depressed, they tend to eat more. We think of it as kind of like a way to get us through the next day, the comfort of food. For sleeping, again, when we're anxious, we tend to have a hard time falling asleep or staying asleep. Some people, their head hits the pillow and they're at like a light, and then wake up a few hours later, maybe to a noise, maybe because they had to use the bathroom, and then the rumination starts and they can't fall asleep. When people are depressed, they tend to sleep more. But again, this all varies depending on what you're going through, your situations, menopause. There's so many reasons why things could be different, but there usually is a shift or a change in their appetite and sleeping habits. So all of this are signs of seasonal, disorder. And again, that social withdrawal that we talked about. So really watching the patterns of for yourself and anybody that you love who could be going through this. Now, we really don't know the causes of seasonal affective disorder. We know that the environment plays a role, absolutely. Like I said, the lake effect, if you're around an area that's always cloudy and dark or gets more snow and you're stuck in. But for others, it could also be genetics. Sometimes the seasonal affective disorder does run. And other times, again, just being a woman makes the factors higher. And the other thing is if depression runs in your family, that genetic component, or you already have mental illness, or if you're in a situation that causes depression, because we have genetic depression, right, what you're born with. We also have situational depression. So if you're going through something major at this time, the weather and the winter months can just add on to it. And for most people, if they have this, we start seeing it in young adulthood. We see, and then it It just stays. We see the patterns, or it can even get worse as they age. So again, you can have some of these symptoms or all of them, but just being self-aware of them for you and the people you love. Because again, there is help for this. It's just being aware of what it is. So a little bit of some treatments for seasonal affective disorder. Now, again, you can use this for the winter blues as well. But again, with seasonal affective disorder, we're more concerned because it's more serious. So the first one is what we call a light therapy box. And I'm not sure if you ever heard of them. Now, light therapy boxes are really common. And I'm just going to put this, I don't know if you guys could see in the chat board, but Amazon has some really great light therapy boxes that you could just order online. And they're small. You don't need a big one. They have all different sizes, but you don't have to buy this big one at all. You can buy their cheaper ones. And what they do is they give you light that mimics the sun, that mimics the outside light. And that's really effective. So I have a client who uses hers all year round because she works at an office. She works at a nonprofit, and her office, unfortunately, has no windows. And she's like, this is horrible. So even in the summer, when it's bright outside on those good days, she gets no sunlight. So she uses her therapy box all year round. So you could even use it, like I said, even if it's spring or summer, but it's just cloudy for days on end, you can pull out the light therapy box. Now, for a lot of people, they use it within the first hour of waking up. But what you really need is about 20 to 30 minutes of the light. So if you want to do it in the morning, that's great. If not, or you don't get a chance, you can do it during the day where you just have this light therapy box. It does not give the rays that we're concerned about with, skin cancer. It doesn't have those rays. So you can keep your eyes open. You just don't want to look directly at the light, just like the sun, right? And also know this, if you get a light therapy box, it does take a few weeks, excuse me, to make a difference. So I have some clients who swear in the first few days they feel a difference, but for most people, usually in about 2-3 weeks, they really say, wow, I'm noticing a difference in my moods, because the light therapy box lifts your moods and spirit. So you can buy one on Amazon, very cheap, very effective. And again, about 20 to 30 minutes a day is perfect. That's all you need. So you can have it on while you're doing other things, watching your TV at work, whatever it is, and just getting that mimic of the sunlight. The next is psychotherapy, right? So I have a lot of clients who will either, who in the summer months will come once a month or every other week, but when the winter months come or right beforehand, they'll start coming more often to learn ways to cope and to kind of work through it again. I have some clients who go on a very low dose of medication, and they'll just do the medication. They'll start it again in about October. They start weaning off in March to be off by April. And they just do a very low dosage. And it's because when we have seasonal affective disorder, our serotonin levels are low. And with SSRIs, we can actually balance out serotonin. So some people like to do that. It's up to you. It's not something you have to do. There's also some natural supplements that boost our mood. And I'll put some up here on the chat board. But there's GABA, which is a mood boosting. And now these are all natural. That's what we're talking about. These are supplements. They're not, you don't need a prescription. You can buy them at ShopRite or the Vitamin Shop or Walmart or Amazon, but they help improve mood. There's St. John's worts. And again, these are just all natural. And then there's L-theanine. And these are all great supplements that help improve moods. So for a lot of people, they really enjoy these natural supplements instead of an antidepressant. But it's up to you. Depends how bad you get. You know yourself, noticing the patterns from years before, what works. I have a lot of clients who'll try the natural route in the beginning. If that's not enough, then the next year they will add in a very low dose just for that 4 or 5 months. And then remember, with any medication, you have to wean off. So that's why even if they start in October, they usually start at a few weeks before the time change. In the beginning of March, they'll start weaning off, so they're off by like the first week of April. You never want to jump off any antidepressant or anti-anxiety. It can make you more depressed. So you just wean off, and you can get this from your family doctor as well as, a psychiatrist. But there are definitely low doses that people use and love. We want to spend some time outdoors to craft some natural light. Now, again, in the winter months, like today is beautiful, but then we just had 2 days that were yucky and cloudy, and that's how the winter is in this area. So when it is nice out, when the sun is out there, layer up and get that natural light. The sunlight is so important. And if you can take a walk, which is great, because here's the few things. Walking is one of the best ways, actually scientifically, they say walking is the best way to get mindfulness. And mindfulness is so important because it's the only natural way to de-stress. And when people think of mindfulness, they think of meditation or taking a yoga class or a chair yoga class. And those are all great practices of being mindful. But mindfulness can be done in so many ways. You don't have to sit and meditate and be like, to get the benefits, right? So being out in nature, and again, I'll put this stuff on the chat board, being out in nature is one of the best ways to get mindfulness. And walking, scientifically, walking is one of the best ways to get that mindfulness. So what is mindfulness? Besides being the only natural way to de-stress, it is a way to be self-aware of what you're feeling. Because when you're mindful, you're aware of what's going on around you in your physical environment. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? What do you touch? But it also allows you to know what's going on mentally, emotionally, what's ruminating in your head. So with mindfulness, you're at that place of being in the moment, being aware of what's going on around you, but without judgment. You're not judging, you're just noticing. I'm feeling a little stressed right now. I'm feeling a little anxious, just being aware. The other thing that mindfulness does is it brings you into the moment. And when you're in your moment, in the here and now, you're your most productive, your most creative. But it also is where you're less stressed. Because when we're stressed, anxious, angry, depressed, we usually either in the past, thinking about what could have happened, what did happen. So you might be thinking about, oh my God, I have another 4 months of this. I can't handle the cold. I'm dealing with this again. Or you're in the future thinking about what we call anticipatory anxiety, what could happen. And in your head, it could be like, oh my God, winter could go longer. What if we have a really long winter and there's still snow here in April? And you start going in different directions where the stress, anxiety, isolation, all that is at its peak. When I'm here in the moment, I'm my most calm. I'm my least stressed. I reduce my stress hormone cortisol. I lower blood pressure. I reduce chronic pain. I self-soothe. I relax, and it helps me sleep. So mindfulness is great for any forms of anxiety, stress, overwhelm, depression, including winter blues or seasonal affective. But when you're outside in the natural light, you get vitamin D. And vitamin D is so important. And the reason being is vitamin D it's really like a super supplement. Vitamin D helps with your bones, so it's great for your bones. It's also great for your immune system. We always talk about vitamin C, which is amazing, but vitamin D is really amazing for your immune system and one of the best supplements for COVID. Even though we're not in a pandemic anymore, COVID does still exist. I just had a few clients who had COVID, right? So vitamin D helps with all of that. But vitamin D for mental health is great. Vitamin D helps with our moods. Now, you get it naturally from the sun, which is the best way to get it. You can get it from some foods like leafy greens. A lot of times juice, like orange juice, will enhance it with vitamin D. But the best way is the sun. So on those days where it's nice out, even if you have to layer up, get out there, even if it's just for 15, 20 minutes, get that sunlight. Really important. It lifts your spirits, it lifts your moods, it gives you that vitamin D. And by being outside, getting the fresh air, going for a walk, if you can, obviously, if it's icy or dangerous, don't do it. But then maybe you just sit outside for a little bit. Maybe you just sit outside with your dog or cat, or just, sit outside bundled up with a cup of hot chocolate or tea, whatever you enjoy. But it gives you all of that. Now, if you can walk, you get a lot of the benefits. So you get the nature, you get the vitamin D and the sunlight, you get cardio, and every time you go do any exercise, including walking, you boost your endorphins. And your endorphins is the happy chemical that makes us feel good while reducing pain at the same time. So vitamin D, really important. And I know for me, I take extra vitamin D in the winter because I have winter blues. I function, I do everything. I don't have seasonal affective, but I totally have the winter blues. The minute I get off the plane and I'm in a warmer area, so I'm going to Atlanta in a week and a half, or I'm in Florida, my mood goes right back. So I get the sunlight, I get the warmth, I can be outside. So I up my vitamin D, and it makes a big difference. I just buy my vitamin D at Walmart or Amazon, and I'll up it. You can talk to your doctor about how many milligrams you should be taking. And if you're not sure, if you have low vitamin D, and when you get a physical, sometimes they check for it, sometimes they don't. But if you ask your physician to check your vitamin D levels, they will during your physical. And if you're low vitamin D, then you might want to talk to your doctor about upping the supplements even year round. Because vitamin D, when we have low vitamin D or vitamin D deficiency, it can add or lead to depression. So really important that you check your vitamin D levels and spend as much time as you can outdoors when the weather allows it. And when we think of the happiest countries, yes, United States is never one of the happiest countries. Unfortunately, we're usually somewhere in the middle. But some of the happiest countries like Denmark, Finland, Norway, they're some of the coldest countries, right? And we wonder, how are they so happy? Because it's freezing. But they know what we know, but they do. They layer up and they go outside. You see them unless the weather's horribly bad, even out on bikes, walking, hiking. They have layer upon layer, but they get outside. They go outside, they get the sunlight, they get the exercise, they get the nature, they get the fresh air. So if you can, when you can, obviously, again, we don't want anybody out when it's snowing and icy or any of that. But if, Mother Nature's agreeing with us, even though it's like 40 degrees outside, but it's sunny, get outside for that few minutes, even if it's just go to get your mail or go for a walk or sit outside, get it. And it really makes a difference with your moods. So vitamin D, sunlight. The next is exercise. So again, every time we exercise, it's a bonus. Any type of exercise, whether it's walking, running, lifting weights, chair yoga, swimming, whatever it is, it produces that endorphins. As we just talked about, the chemical that makes us feel good, the pleasure chemical that also reduces our pain. Exercise also promotes, mindfulness, but at the same time, it reduces your stress hormone. So every time you're exercising, you're reducing your stress and you're producing mindfulness. So again, even if you can't exercise outside, even if you're walking inside or you're using an inside bike, or you're walking around, if you can do laps in your own building, your own home, exercise. Just remember this, our bodies are called the pain body. I'm not sure if you ever heard it like this. And what that means is we hold all of our negative emotions on our body. Stress, anxiety, fear, anger, all of that is held on our bodies. So we hold all the tension. And the only way through that to release that tension is movement. So movement is so important, but it doesn't have to be going for a jog or lifting weights. For mental health, it could be anything like we talked about. So stretching is one of the best. And this is really important about stretching because we hold all of our emotions, negative emotions on our body. You want to release them on your body. So I'm going to do what we call the mind-body connection. And the mind-body connection is this. Wherever you hold your stress, your anxiety, your anger, your fear, you hold it on your body, it's a warning flag. So when you feel it on your body, you know, hey, I'm getting stressed, I'm getting overwhelmed, I'm getting anxious. It's a warning sign to just stop and see what's going in and check in with yourself. The question is, where do you hold stress on your body? And that's what you want to think about. So I'm going to give you the common areas just to be aware so you become self-aware. But if you know already, you can post it up there. But these are the common areas. First one is up here, your shoulder, your neck, and your back, because we tense up, right? So we do this, and it hits this whole area. Now, if you sit all day in front of a computer, that can add to it as well. So just the sitting. We're not made to sit all day. We need movement. But this area, shoulders, back, neck. The next area is your jaw. And a lot of people get this, and we call it either TMJ or lockjaw. And there's a few signs of it. Some people, it's teeth pain or teeth sensitivity. And a lot of times men tend to grind, women tend to clench. A lot of times you're not even aware of it because people do it in their sleep. So they're not even aware until they go to a dentist and they actually see it on your teeth. But you can notice it by, again, the teeth sensitivity or teeth pain, ear pain or throat pain. For a lot of people, if you just touch, I don't know if you can see on Zoom, but if I touch right next to my ear, it hurts because I have lockjaw. I am the first to admit it. It could also be when you open your mouth to eat or to yawn, it makes like a crackling noise, or it hurts, or it feels like it's going to stay locked but open. Headaches or migraines, and then stomach. And I had a client express it perfectly. She said, I feel like someone's in there wringing a washcloth. That's exactly what it feels like. Now, you could have it in one area, all areas, and some people will get kind of, a client said it to me, she goes, I feel like every joint and muscle or bone in my body aches. Kind of like when you have a fever, but you're not sick. And that's because some people tense up their whole area. Now, when you feel this, again, once you become self-aware, or I hold it in my stomach, I get it in my jaw, you feel any of that pain, because we can be really good at denial and avoidance and pushing things away emotionally, but your body's giving you the warning like, hey, something's going on. Just means to stop what you're doing and check in. Now, one of the ways to release that is to stretch out where the tension is. So I'll just give you a few stretches that you can do. You can do them sitting or standing, and they'll help relieve the tension out of your body. So if you're one of those people gets tension in your neck, here's a very easy one. And again, stretching is gentle, so nothing should hurt. And stretching is a form of mindfulness. So very easy to do. Just put your chin down to your chest. You'll just stay there for a second. Then go to one side, going to my right. Just stretch it so your ear goes down to your shoulder. You could bring your arm over and stretch it more if you want. But again, gentle. Then back that your eyes are up towards the ceiling. Then over to the other side. Just again, a gentle stretch if you would like. And then back down, chin to your chest. Then you go back the other way. I'm just doing it short for time, but you could do much more. If it's your shoulders and your upper back, then the first one is just shoulders to your ear. Just releases the tension. And you could do, like I said, a 10. But again, I'm just going to do a few for time. Then you could also roll your shoulders back. Just roll them back and roll them forward. And again, you could do like 10 or 12 each, and that will release the tension. You could also bring your arms up to the ceiling, stretch them out. And I'm doing everything sitting, but you could do it standing. Now, if you get tension in your lower back or your waist or your hips, you could just add by stretching over to the right. Gentle stretch, again, it should feel good, never hurt. Then back over to the other side and stretch it that way. And then back up to the top. And that will get your shoulders, your back, but also your lower back and your waist. If you, again, getting it in your lower back or waist, just shifting. I'm just twisting, sitting down on the chair. And that will hit the lower area. So those are just a few. Now, some people get a lot of tension in their fingers, one from typing on the computer, two for typing and texting on the phone. And a lot of people get in that carpal tunnel, forearms, their fingers. And a very easy way to help with the tension in that is just pretending you're playing piano, going up and down like that, or pretending you have a scratch board like a cat has and just scratching. And that helps. And it also helps great for all fine motor skills and arthritis. Just shaking it out too. That's another form. If you're feeling anxious or stressed, just shake it out. Shake out your arms and your legs. And that's it. And there's more stretches, but those are just a gentle few that will help relieve the tension that you're holding in your body, and that releases it. And that will give you mindfulness, which again helps reduce your stress hormone, cortisol, lower blood pressure, reduce chronic pain. So really important. Stretch, move. We have the pain body with all those negative emotions on our body. We want to get movement. And walking is another great one. And I just want to put out there, we always have negative emotions like stress, anger, overwhelm, fear. But I hate to call them negative, but there are positive emotions as well. So there is a difference. But negative emotions are natural and normal. They're just more intense. So we're not saying don't feel them, saying feel them, know they're there, and then work through them. So exercise of any type, including stretching or walking, chair yoga, they're all amazing. Bring the outdoors inside. So in the winter months, in the fall, open up all your shades, the curtains, open them up for the day. Get in as much sunlight as you can. For a lot of my clients, they'll eat or drink their coffee in the morning by their porch or like back door or window where they feel the sun on your skin. You really want to bring it indoors. Look at it, see the nature, see your well, I'm not gonna see flowers in the winter, but see the trees, see the sun, see the clouds. Bring get some indoor plants that you can put around that make you feel comfy, cozy. Bring the sunlight in, bring the outside in. So in the days that you can't be outside, you can still enjoy the inside. And I have a lot of clients who do like candles that have the smells, like the pine trees, or a lot of times like a real Christmas tree will have that smell. You could do with candles that have the smells of outdoors that just adds to the environment of feeling that. So whatever works for you, but bring the outdoors indoors. All right, let me switch slides. So some other treatments, again, we're talking about for both seasonal affective and the winter blues. So we want to have routines. Routines, consistency, schedules are so important for our overall balance and happiness in life. And again, a lot of times because the winter months affect our sleep, routines help with the sleep hygiene, the sleep cycle. So you should have a good morning routine and a good evening routine. And I'll give you a few things to do, but I mean, everybody has their own. Morning routines are really important because it sets your day up of what type of mood you're going to be. It sets your day up for success and happiness. Your evening routine is so important because it helps wind you down so you get a good night's sleep. Some people like a midday routine. That's up to you, but the really important ones are morning and evening. So here are a few things that really help. In the morning, the first thing you want to do is get sunlight. So if you can open up the window, go outside. I let my dog out first thing in the morning. I don't know if anybody here has animals. And when I let him out, I'll just sit outside in my winter jacket because it's freezing here and get as much sunlight as I can, because the more sunlight we get first thing in the morning, the better we sleep. It helps with our sleep cycle. So getting sunlight first thing in the morning, really important. Another one is make your bed in the morning. And I know a lot of you probably already do this. It's a military activity. You don't have to drop a quarter on it or anything. Just make your bed. It takes 30 seconds to a minute. But what it does is every time you make your bed, it gives you positive emotions. As we talked about, there's negative and positive emotions. And every time you make your bed, it gives you two positive emotions of accomplishment and pride. So right there, you're getting a boost. Now, as we talked about, there's negative emotions and positive. Positive emotions are things such as happiness or joy, love, gratitude, kindness, accomplishment, pride, curiosity, hope, right? Now, negativity is way stronger than positivity. Just want to put that out there. And that's because we all have what's called a negative bias. Everybody has it. It's genetic. And what that tends to do is it tends to make us lean towards the negative, get stuck in the negative and notice it. But we all have the ability to work through that. So the more positive emotions you have in your day, the more balanced your day is. But again, negativity is stronger than positivity. So this is what it looks like. You need 3 positive emotions to balance out 1 negative. I know that's a lot. 3 positive to balance out 1 negative. So basically, if you have like a daily dose or a daily diet of positive emotions, you literally can balance out the negative. And every time you have a positive emotion, you get a boost of happiness. So by making your bed, you get that boost of happiness, accomplishment, and pride right there. Getting the sunlight, all it does is help you sleep in your sleep cycle. Another great thing to do in the morning is do the magic question. I don't know if you ever heard this, but it's really a simple one. And I'll put it up here on the chat board. I'm putting it up here so you have it. And all it is, this magic question was created by a cardiologist and a positive psychologist. And they worked it out together. And this is the question: how will I make today a great day? Now, all you want to do is ask yourself that. Say it out loud, say it in your head, whatever you want, but throw it out to the universe. Don't try to answer it. So if you try to answer it in the morning, most people are groggy and they didn't sleep well, they don't feel good, they don't have any positivity. It's like, oh, I got to get up. Oh, it's cold out. I don't want to get up. Why didn't I sleep well? But if you just throw it out to the universe, what happens is your brain starts thinking of ways to solve it. And as you go on your day, whether you're making breakfast, you take a shower, you go for a walk, call a friend, whatever you do, it'll start coming to you. I had a client say this to me a few weeks ago. She just started asking herself this question. She goes, I was driving on my way to work. She goes, and for some reason, there wasn't a lot of traffic, which is rare in this area. She goes, I get off, the entrance for my job, and I realize, oh my God, I have like an extra 15 minutes. I'm going to go to that new coffee place and get myself a cup of coffee. She leaves and she goes, I sit in my car, I take I take a sip of coffee, and she goes, oh my God, that was the best coffee I ever had. She goes, now I wouldn't have even thought of getting coffee if I didn't ask that question. It just popped in my head like, oh, this will help you have a good day. She goes, I don't know if it was actually that it was the best cup of coffee or it was just a treat or it was a new place or it was just that good, but it made my whole day. Those little things. Just ask yourself the magic question and just go on with your day and let it happen. For some people, they add some mindfulness, and here's a few other ways. For some people, they do morning prayers. Doesn't matter the religion or just spiritual. Prayers are a form of mindfulness. So if you want to do your daily prayers, that will give you mindfulness. Some people will start their day with some type of exercise again or stretching, and that gives them mindfulness. Others like to do a journal writing. And if you do like journal writing, this is a great way, and it's called a free write. And all that means is you're going to write and you want to go old school. Pen and paper is the best. I mean, I know some people like to type on their computers and their notes, but if you can write it, even better. All you want to do for a free write is write whatever is on your mind. That's it. Just write whatever is on your mind and release it onto the paper. The only thing, there's no right or wrong here. The only thing is you don't want to judge it. You don't want to spell check it or grammar check it. It's just a free write to release whatever. Now, some people will keep it as a journal and they use it as a form of self-awareness. They go back and look at things, see how far they've come. Other people don't want to do that and they write it. And then when they're done, they want to release it for the day. Or if you have a fear someone's going to read it, to rip it to shreds. I have a client who puts it through a paper shredder. I have another client that'll put it out in the fireplace. And like they're releasing the negativity. But all of those are mindfulness. Then you want to have your evening routine. And again, evening is so important because it helps you wind down for a good night. So here's one thing, whatever you're doing, this is an important kind of stat. Whatever you're doing 20 to 30 minutes before you go to bed affects if you sleep, how you dream, and what mood you wake up in the morning. So your nighttime should be as positive as possible because it affects your sleep. So whatever you're doing 20 to 30 minutes before bed affects. So no news. I always put this up here on the chat board because news provokes fear, anxiety, even if it's just the weather. There might be a storm coming. It's not going to be nice this day. You better bundle up on this day. And it affects us. So no news before night. The best way to actually fall asleep is an old-fashioned book, not a Kindle, not an iPad using that, just an old-fashioned book. Books put us to sleep. But make sure, again, whatever you're watching or reading before bed is positive. The other thing is you want to be off technology. And I'm not saying the TV. I know a lot of people fall asleep with the TV on. Technology as in computers, laptops, phones, all of that. You want to be off at least 60 to 90 minutes before bed. The blue light of technology can keep us up. Even if you have blue light glasses, still can keep us up. It's also very overwhelming. We're stimulated from it. We get overstimulated and we can't fall asleep. But what relaxes you? Again, let's do some mindfulness. For some people, it's a hot bath or a warm shower. That relaxes us. For others, again, they do some stretching. I always say at night, meditation is one of the best ways to get mindfulness. And a lot of my clients love, they say prayer is talking to a higher power, God, whatever the source, universe, whatever your beliefs are. Meditations are listening. So you can meditate at night. If you're not somebody who normally meditates and you want to try it, then you should try a guided meditation. And you can do this for free. All you need is headphones. So any type of headphones, you put them in and you listen to it. You could do it like an app like Calm or Headspace. I'm just thinking of a few and putting them on the chat board, or Inside Timer. They all have a free and a paid. You do not need to pay, just use the free. If you don't want to do that, you can do YouTube has a bunch for free, or you can even buy CDs that have it. And you just listen to the meditation. And that, for a lot of people, puts them to sleep. You can have meditations where someone's talking to you, meditation where it's just meditative music, or the mix of both. Or if you want, you could just listen to nature sounds like the beach, a waterfall. Some people like a thunderstorm. Or you can do stories. So a lot of the apps and YouTubes have calm stories. Kind of like when we were little kids, we love when somebody talked to us and put us to sleep with a story. It's the same thing. They have somebody with a soft, soothing voice. Matthew McConaughey, the actor, does a lot of these. You just listen to a story, and the next thing you know, you're usually falling asleep with it. So meditation. My favorite that I have my clients do is gratitude at night. Just asking themselves, what are 2 to 3 things I'm grateful for that happened today? Looking through my day for the gifts, blessings, and miracles. That is another form of mindfulness. Gratitude's a positive emotion, a form of mindfulness. So you go to bed with all the positivity. And the other thing is, if you have a busy day or you don't, write out your to-do list before you go to bed, because that'll keep you up. You won't be able to sleep because you'll be like, I have to make this phone call, go to this appointment, I have to return this, and that'll keep you up. Or again, if you fall asleep, for a lot of people, they wake up 2, 3 in the morning, and then that ruminates in their head. Write out your to-do list, put it next to your bed, somewhere you can see it, and then go to bed. Remember, again, you want to have positivity before bed. That's why meditation and gratitude and all of that works, because when we go to sleep positive, not having the news or anything that's stressful, we sleep better, we dream better. So, because a dream is like a movie of what's going on in your life at the moment, a problem you're trying to solve. So if you're stressed before bed, you'll have stressful dreams that either wake you up, or you wake up and every bone in your body hurts because you move in your sleep. So you want to go to bed as calm as possible. And that's really important for sleep hygiene. And again, a few things for sleep hygiene. If you're affected by sleep, your room should be as dark and cold as possible. We sleep better that way. You want it to be as dark, so even if you have to get one of those sleep masks to make sure no light comes in. Positivity before bed, no technology before bed. Are your sheets, are your blankets, are your your pajamas all comfortable? And trying to go to bed around the same time and waking up around the same time, really important, even if you're on vacation. That keeps our sleep hygiene going. And those are really important. All right, so I just realized it's getting late and I keep babbling to you guys, and it's almost 5:02. So I'm just going to wrap it up with this one thing. Socialization is the top factor of happiness, and that includes having a support system, having fun, and a community, which we're all so lucky to have with Arbor. We need that. Socialization, top factor. So the more social we are, and if you can't be social in the winter months due to maybe you can't drive or you don't like being out there, make sure you still stay social. In person's always the best, but doing Zoom, phone calls, even if you do, I have a lot of clients in the winter, they'll do, they'll eat dinner together by Zoom, talking to each other, or have happy hour together. Just make sure you stay social. Really, really important. We don't want to go down that isolation and loneliness, because again, that leads to depression. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing. Otherwise, I could babble to you guys for the rest of the day. I'm good at that babbling thing. And I want to see, does anybody have any questions, thoughts, comments, anything I can help you with?
Thank you, Diane. Actually, we did get a couple of questions. So I was trying to answer it while we wait, because someone had to jump early, but I'm already feeling better after that simple stretching. I'm already feeling so much better. So
it does work.
Thank you very much for that. So before we do jump in with questions, if you have a question, make sure to use the Q&A at the bottom of your screen to get those in, because we only have a few minutes left. But like I said, we had a guest who needed to leave early. She asked if you could recommend the best light therapy boxes. You mentioned on Amazon. Is there a certain brand or size that they should be looking for?
So honestly, the brand really doesn't matter. So it's really about going to what's going to work for your financial. I don't want anybody to feel stressed about buying it. But the perfect size is all we need is like 16 to 24 inches. And I'll put that up on the, oh, it doesn't come up on the chat board. Should I put it in the Q&A?
I see it on mine. She said her chat wasn't working.
Oh,
So
okay, so I'll put it there if you want to put on the Q&A. 16 to 24 inches is the perfect.
thank you.
So you don't need to get, some people do end up getting bigger, and if you want to use it with somebody else, share it, but 16 to 24 inches, and they usually could be anywhere from like $30 to $40 to start and upwards. You can just buy the cheapest one, and 16 to 24 inches is perfect, and they last years. So you don't have to keep getting another one. So it's a really inexpensive way to help. And again, the vitamin D too, just as important.
Well, that reminds me of another question because you mentioned vitamin D, and I know my doctor told me I'm very extremely low in vitamin D because of the melanin in my skin. So I was wondering, is anyone more susceptible to SAD or winter blues? Have you found that along the
Just in
way?
general, women. I haven't had more of an age because it starts usually in young adulthood. So I'm usually seeing a pattern of it. People have been having it for years. So you'll notice it. And again, the people who I notice have it the most tend to just be women, and it's a pattern of it, noticing it. But for low vitamin D, I don't notice a pattern of it. But if you do notice you have a low vitamin D and are going along with your doctor's recommendations, especially in the winter months, because we get much less sunlight, really upping. I take a lot because I have a very strange illness where I can't have vitamin C. So for me, I have a lot of vitamin D, and in the winter months, I take 4,000 to 5,000. But you want to talk to your doctor. That was approved by my doctor because I cannot take vitamin C just to supplement. And I know for me, my moods in the winter, I have the winter blues. In the summer, I take like 3,000. So talk to your doctor, and just, vitamin D, if you have a problem swallowing too, that does come as a gummy or a chewable or dissolvable. So I know a lot of people don't like to swallow a lot of the big vitamins. They're huge. So you can get it in any format. And again, CVS has it, to ShopRite, to, I don't know what your food store, Publix, or Walmart or Amazon, whatever it is.
Okay, thank you. We just got a new question.
Sure.
Missy is asking, can you say the question again that we should be asking ourselves?
The magic question. I
Magic
love
question.
this question, right? This is the question that was created by a cardiologist and a clinical psychologist who deals with positive psychology, which is just the study of happiness, the other side. And the magic question is, how can I make this a great day? That's it. How can I make this a great day? And you can shift it around, like, how can I make this the best day? How can I make this a better day? But it's just putting it out to the universe. Don't try to answer it. So if you try to answer it, usually answer it on autopilot with the negativity. Just throw it out there and let it come to you. It's such a great question. And you can ask that as you're getting out of bed, while you're in the shower, while you're eating. It doesn't have to ruin. I'm trying to give things that don't ruin a schedule, like we already have something, that are inexpensive and don't take up a lot of time. It's not sure, what your schedule looks like. You could be working, babysitting for the grandkids. So just making sure people have that. But yeah, it's a great question.
Well,
And you
that's
could
great.
ask it every morning.
Yes, and now that we have that in here, well, you're all going to get this recording, so you can remember that. So thank you for that. And you've given us so many great tips. And I know that I'm one of those people who avoids the doctor for a long time. So at what point do you think we should be going to the doctor or getting professional help for SAD or winter blues?
If you're noticing any of the symptoms we talked about with seasonal affective depression, which is really a form of depression. So the helplessness, the hopelessness, feeling isolated, lonely, if you're feeling very depressed, no motivation to do anything, that's when I would. And I saw, Susan, your question is, like binge shopping or spree shopping a sign of depression or mania? It could be. Absolutely could be a lot of anything we do in extreme, whether it's shopping, gambling, food, can be a form. Now, I'm not sure how much, so I don't want to diagnose because I don't know for sure. But if you're feeling that every time you're sad or depressed or anxious, you shop and you're having a lot of things that you don't want or don't need and have tags on, or if hoarding's becoming an issue because you have so much, then definitely I would get help. And for anybody, if you're having any of those depressive symptoms, just remember to reach out. You can reach out to a counselor, a social worker, a psychologist. You can reach out to your family doctor first, and they can help you, decide, do I need a low dose medication? Should I be talking to somebody? But absolutely, it's no reason to suffer with this. And believe me, like I said, I have the winter blues. I hate the winter. And I probably will not be fully happy till I get myself to Florida as a snowbird here. But it, there are things that we can do, and there are things that work and help. So please, if you feel that way, talk to somebody. Really important. Go make that phone call and set up an appointment.
Thank you, Diane. That's very good advice. And thank you for being here with us today. We've already hit the top of the hour. That time just flew right by. So again, everyone's going to receive a link to this recorded webinar to the email that you registered with very shortly. If you enjoyed this webinar, you should also visit the website www.seniorlivinglive.com, where we have many great webinar recordings on all of the topics you're looking for, including many more on health and wellness. All of these recordings are free, so make sure to check them out at your convenience. And I'm sure you'll find something that you're looking for there. So thank you again, Diane, for all your help today. Thank you all for watching and being with us today. And just thank you all for being a part of Senior Living Live. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Happy holidays.